I know I've been upset and angry the last 24 hours, but Emma Vigeland looked like she was going to break the fucking house down last night. So I will let her start this off. The floor is yours.
So I'll preface this by to speak about these Trump comments. At first I thought, yeah, he's a pig. Fine, I expected that of him. But then I realized that the media was covering it constantly, and we were in the middle. It was like Jordan and I were in the twilight zone, essentially. We got the news that Wikileaks had dropped this bomb, so Jordan cancels his massage. I sprint to the check-in counter for our hotel to get the Wi-Fi and to get up to the hotel room as quickly as I can to start sifting through these emails, because we are in the news business and we like to break news and do things like that. And a presidential candidate's campaign chair's email was hacked, and all of these important documents were made public. So one would think if one was in the news that they would want to cover it. So we were sifting through these emails. Jordan found a ton of stuff. I found a little bit. I found this Keystone Pipeline thing. I was pretty proud of it. And nothing. And then, the media, we hadn't really heard anything. I saw a Slate article, kinda. So I was like, okay, some of these progressive outlets are covering it. Jordan and I decided to turn on the TV to see, maybe CNN's going to cover it. Maybe MSNBC is going to cover it. What do you guys think happened? Basically, Jordan and I stayed up till, 12:30 watching cable news. From 7 to 12:30, they talked about Trump with commercial breaks. There was no other topic except the hurricane for 10% of it. No other topic except Trump and his misogyny. And obviously his advocating of sexual assault, which is a story, but you can't break away for 5 fucking seconds to talk about, Hillary Clinton's Wall Street transcripts came out, which was maybe the biggest particular topic in the primary. It was the biggest topic in the Democratic primary. Release your transcript. It was the biggest question mark in the Democratic primary. She still hadn't done it, despite Bernie Sanders' prodding. And you know what? Like Bernie predicted, the Wall Street transcripts had shit in them. So maybe the media would want to jump on them. They don't even need to do the legwork. Jordan and I did that for them. We sifted through the emails. We found stuff. So just click on your computer, go to twitter.com, and look at what any progressive journalist is going to be talking about right now, and then regurgitate that on your teleprompter. Just do one semblance of a service. And it also is frustrating because people like us have been railing against the myth of the liberal media for so long, and when you only cover the Republican candidate, even though Hillary Clinton's not a liberal, then you are fulfilling that narrative for people like Fox News who say, oh, you only cover the negative stuff about Donald Trump. They are doing that. They are doing just that. And they are by no means liberal, but they are very pro-Clinton and very pro-establishment. And the only people that are going to be actually breaking these stories are people who are online and independent. For 4.5 hours, or however that long, Trump, Hurricane Trump, nothing about Clinton. And it was infuriating. Also, we need money for this toll.
You gotta stop. You still haven't gotten any money?
I need to get...
You're gonna fucking bleed me dry. Well, all I do is pay for tolls all damn day. Hold on, folks.
I will buy Jordan a beer tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, I think a few things. Number one, I'm not a woman, but I can say that I think Donald Trump, the comments he made, talking to, I think, an Access Hollywood reporter, were, disgusting. And by the way, let's not only focus on Donald Trump. You think all these Republican politicians who are now pulling their endorsement don't talk this way behind closed doors to their pals about their heyday, or looking at that cute little hot, Capitol Hill assistant or Capitol Hill press secretary? So, not that I'm defending Donald Trump, but spare me the moral high ground for a lot of these people slamming Donald Trump. John McCain is a notorious hound who just pulled his endorsement. So, call me cynical, but Donald Trump might be a menace, but all these people claiming to be the moral police, they've made some lewd comments in their day too.
Also, Kelly Ayotte in fucking New Hampshire, she just said, I'm writing in Governor Pence for my ticket. The same Pence that wants to cut all Planned Parenthood funding, that very pro-woman Mike Pence. These Republicans, as much as Donald Trump says the horrible thing, they want to do the horrible thing. So, yes, the sexual assault stuff that was revealed in the New York Times editorial, or not editorial, but the Sunday, it was advanced to Friday because it had breaking news, that he may have assaulted that woman, that is very concerning, obviously, and that should have been talked about. But they weren't even really talking about that for a majority of the time. It was mostly about the, excuse my French, pussy grab discussion, and that wasn't great either. But again, I would have been actually happy if they just took 5 minutes out of that 4-hour span to mention the Wikileaks stuff, but they didn't. It's, as a news organization, it's literally journalistic malpractice, and that's because mainstream media has become entertainment, and I'm talking right now specifically about TV media, just entertainment. So if you want to listen to the news, getting it on TV is basically rotting your entire brain. Print media still does good things, but the only way you can listen and watch the news in a way that's actually going to inform you is to look online. And we aren't able to do this 24/7. We don't have the resources to be a 24-hour news network. They have the infinite resources. They have the fucking power of God. They have the hammer of Thor to say, I want to cover this. I'll put 3 journalists on this. I'll send them on a first-class ticket, and I'll send them, wherever they need to go. And yet they decide to focus on one human being and his comments to fucking Billy Bush on Access Hollywood for 4.5 hours. And then a little hurricane footage of their poor reporter standing in the middle of the hurricane because, people are too stupid to figure out it's windy when a hurricane is happening, so they need to put their reporter in a windbreaker in the center of the thing. It's a clownish enterprise, and the only way you're going to get actual reality is when you search outside of that circle jerk that is the mainstream fucking TV media.
This is Emma Vigeland, angry. Isn't it a beautiful thing? It's terrific. I tell her to do it more. Now, here's my thoughts. I think that I poke fun at Emma sometimes. She's a little bit younger than me, not as cynical as me, but even I have a little bit of naivete at times. Even I was like, they got to cover this. You can't not cover the fact that all these leaks and all these speeches basically show that Hillary Clinton is a complete fraud. How could you not actually cover it? So I was a little naive too, but I was watching. You're getting a lot of nice comments, by the way.
Yay.
I was looking through the WikiLeaks because it's 2,000 pages. I was also trying to verify, because there's a lot of shit that goes around the internet when these things leak. Some of it is not accurate, so I was trying to make sure that I'm not going to report something unless I feel comfortable that it's accurate. But watching it, what I really thought is we've officially crossed the level of state-run media. What CNN and MSNBC are doing is not that much different than what Russia does, or certain Arab areas do with state-run media. I haven't shaved in a month because Jordan is my hero. Oh, thank you. I need to shave. I'm not looking so hot. But when you're looking at CNN and MSNBC, listen. Do I think Donald Trump and these locker room, disgusting sexual kind of talk deserve some coverage? Yes. Particularly stories where there's women claiming he forced himself on them? Of course I do. Corruption is not the only story to cover. Sexual assault is sexual assault. It doesn't matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat doing it. That should get coverage. But I was watching this and it's am I in an alternate universe? Is this not important that the Democratic presidential candidate is caught in a speech saying, I have one position when I speak to the public and another one in private? Is it not pretty big bulletin news when the Democratic presidential candidate, who's been It's just it's a big misunderstanding. You know, people just misunderstand. You guys didn't actually tank the economy. People were just politicizing it. Is it not pretty big news when this candidate talks about being against the TPP and trade has become a pivotal issue in this election, and she's caught in a speech saying, I'm for open markets and open trade and against protectionism. So whether you like Hillary Clinton or not, if you are in the news business, this is not like, all right, one person might think it's news while the other doesn't. This is news. But CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, Washington Post, it's endless about Trump and this audio tape. And then the dominoes from there, which Republicans are going to endorse, are going to pull their endorsement. Is Trump going to show up to the debate? Oh, what would happen if Trump gets out of the debate? Would it be Pence? Would it be Cruz? Oh my God, what is Trump doing right now? What's he eating? Oh my Lord, the video's about to come out. Oh, the video came out, and I don't know if he was very apologetic. It wasn't sincere. Meanwhile, you have all these fucking emails showing the Empress has no clothes, folks. And again, we've been on the road today, but at least last night and this morning, it's not that I saw little coverage of Hillary Clinton's speeches. I saw no coverage. I didn't even see it mentioned. The New York Times last night had a story on Wikileaks, and there was a paragraph. The New York Times had a story that Obama officially is accusing Russia of trying to hack our elections. And there was a paragraph towards the bottom about Wikileaks just released something, and they didn't say what they released. Nothing about Hillary Clinton or the transcripts.
And I make no qualms. I've said this before. I mean, I know a lot of you guys think, oh, they're both equally bad, Trump and Clinton. I don't feel that way. I think Hillary Clinton is especially corrupt, especially for a Democrat. I think she's the most flawed Democratic candidate we've ever seen in our lifetime, and one of the most flawed candidates ever. She's a disaster in terms of being a candidate. Would I prefer her to be president over Trump? Yes, and I've made that clear. I've made that clear to the audience. I think so. Does that mean I'm not going to cover her when there's a massive story exposing her corruption that is extremely problematic? Absolutely not. That shouldn't be the job. That's the job of the mainstream media, is if they pride themselves on neutrality and on being objective, not even objective, but on not walking a partisan line. But you are walking a partisan line when you're only focusing on this candidate's, latest soundbite where he is offensive. What real journalists do is they expose corruption, they look at stories for what they are, and they don't say, I'm not going to cover this because it's inconvenient to the narrative that I want to push. The mainstream media has completely jumped the shark for Clinton, and it doesn't mean just when I talk about her corruption and I tweet about it or whatever, we do a video on it, doesn't mean I'm not even going to vote for her. That's not even what I'm saying. You have to your job is to provide information to inform the public, and they've completely forgotten that. They think we need to have the sexiest story, the one that's easiest to tell. And yeah, it's almost about laziness. It's so much easier for them to just regurgitate the same story over and over again for 4 hours than to actually do the grunt work of, again, Jordan didn't even leave the car. He was sitting in the car with the engine running so we could plug the Wi-Fi in so he could sift through the WikiLeaks emails. That's harder. That's harder than just having a soundbite fed to you and reading the first 2 paragraphs of an Associated Press article and then going on the air and asking horse racy questions. That is a harder thing to do. But it's the service that people need, and they look to mainstream outlets like that to do that. And they're just doing a massive, massive disservice to the American people.
Wow. Emma is winning the internet right now. Comments are very, very pro-Emma. Now, I also want to say something else that has nothing to do with Hillary Clinton. So, CNN and MSNBC, these networks that gave Donald Trump the conservative number, the generous number is $2 billion of free advertising. I think it's a lot more than that. So all these outlets that gave Donald Trump, they basically handed him the microphone and the camera and said, come on whenever you want. You could call us from the bath. You could call in from the bathtub if you want. We'll give you the loofah. We'll fluff your pillow. They pretty much are responsible for the rise of Donald Trump. All of them. CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post. I could go on and on. They don't get to act indignant that this guy's a monster. So now all of a sudden, oh my God. I mean, you see CNN anchors, the supposedly neutral CNN anchors saying, it's over. He's got to drop out. Am I in the Twilight Zone? You're the reason this guy is the Republican nominee. Nobody could watch national news for 10 months without seeing wall-to-wall breaking news. Donald Trump has taken a shit. And now you're indignant that it was caught on tape that he's a douchebag? Which is not a surprise, by the way. This is not breaking news. So I think it's bigger than Hillary Clinton. This shows that the mainstream media will do whatever it takes to get a sugar high in ratings. Donald Trump provided them that sugar high in ratings. And then when it's, oh, shit, he might actually be president. We got to take him down. Do you think if this audio tape was from... You think they'd be covering this if they had audio of Barack Obama making comments like this as a candidate in 2008? I don't. I do not. They'd say, he was younger, less experienced. They'd say he didn't have the parental guidance, didn't have a relationship with his father. So this is the supposed liberal media. And again, I want to be clear, I'm not defending Donald Trump. I think it's disgusting what he said. I think it does deserve coverage. But the fact that this wall-to-wall condemnation of Donald Trump is coming from the same exact people that are responsible for him being the nominee is disgusting. And it's pathetic. And you know what? When it comes to CNN and MSNBC, the reason I even waste my energy talking about these outlets is not because I respect them. I don't. But because at this point, you got to be real. They have a much bigger audience than TYT Politics or TYT. CNN is all over the world. I mean, you could go to any country, you'll be in a hotel lobby, CNN's on. You could go to bars, CNN International is on. They have a unprecedented and unparalleled platform. And with that comes responsibility. So the fact of the matter is, there's going to be north of 60 million people probably tuning in tomorrow night to the second presidential debate. And Emma brought it up earlier, but millions of people watching that debate have no idea that Hillary Clinton, her private speeches to Goldman Sachs and other places have been released. They'll be learning it for the first time.
From Donald Trump.
From Donald Trump.
And again, why it bothers me so much that the mainstream media doesn't cover this stuff is not because I want to see her go down. Again, I reiterate, I would rather that she be president over Donald Trump because these are the two fucking horrible choices that we have. I apologize, Jill Stein's not going to be president, neither is Gary Johnson, but they, again, like Jordan said, have unprecedented resources and ability to access the entire world. And what the incentive structure that they've created in their company is to who is the blandest, most not even monotone, most the reader of the news who is not going to challenge the establishment most. And that's the incentive structure that they've created. I mean, Jordan and I talk about Jake Tapper a lot. And Jake Tapper is the best, I think, of that horrible pool because he sometimes will divert from the particular talking point narrative. Like Wolf Blitzer has been there since 1918, basically, on CNN. And what does he do as a journalist? He reads the news and he reads the producer-prepared questions for his guess and doesn't get any actual information out of them. What your role is supposed to be is to take the politicians off their talking points and to challenge them and to, circumvent those talking points and uncover the truth that is beneath them, the kernel of truth that is there. And yet the reason Wolf Blitzer has the seniority of a fucking god at CNN is because he doesn't do just that. And we've created this Twilight Zone topsy-turvy world of mainstream media where they're getting paid millions of dollars to do the opposite of journalism. That's it.
And I also think, like what Emma just said, Emma is being more of a journalist than CNN or any of them. Because Emma, frankly, it's probably not a popular position with a lot of the viewers that she's saying, you know what, I hate Hillary Clinton, I hate Donald Trump, but I think Trump's worse. Most of you don't agree with that. I don't necessarily agree with it. But she's saying it because she's not just giving you what you want to hear. She's also telling you, I'm sorry you don't want to hear it, but factually, Jill Stein is not going to be president. She's just not. That doesn't mean we don't agree with some of her positions. I agree with many of her positions. But factually speaking, in the next 3 weeks, she's not going to turn things around to go from 2% to becoming president of the United States. You might not want to hear that, but that's the facts. So I think at the end of the day, what's really troubling the most is about the media coverage is it's very, very clear that the media is intentionally, and to me, in a very coordinated way. I don't find it to be a coincidence that on the same day Wikileaks was releasing her transcripts, you saw Trump's audio go out. Now you're starting to see audio tapes leak from him on Howard Stern years ago. They didn't all of a sudden get this in 24 hours. This stuff has been in the can for a while, and it was waiting to come out. And to me, I don't have any intel, I'm just telling you what I think. Hillary Clinton's campaign was sitting on a lot of this and gave it to their allies in the media when the worst about her came out. But you should know, WikiLeaks, according to them, say they've only released 1%. That's 1% of the amount of emails they have of John Podesta, which is Clinton's campaign chairman, and that's who her transcripts were in his email. Only 1%. So there might be a lot more bombs to throw. I don't know how many more bombs the media has on Donald Trump, but according to WikiLeaks, there's a lot more coming about Hillary Clinton. Maybe it's naive, but I do think, at the very least, Anderson Cooper, I don't think he could have any journalism credibility, if he has any left anyway, if he doesn't bring this up in the debate tomorrow. I would be shocked if it didn't come up at all. I also think Donald Trump, although he's in damage control, he's got some people around him that know how to throw an elbow. Chris Christie is helping him prepare. I think Gingrich is. He'll have the worst of what she said to Goldman Sachs and others, and he will be unleashing it on her. So it really comes down to a race to the bottom. The American people are going to watch, on one hand, a sexual predator, and on other, a complete Republican fraud claiming to be a progressive. And then the voting public can make up their mind what is worse.